Seconds. Okay, well, I am happy to spend some time with the group here, both in person and those who are going to see this here in the next couple days. This is fairly rare because we haven't done this that many times in almost 2 years now. I believe this is our eighth partnership with a company. And before I introduce Dr. Sue and Andy from Virion, I just want to make sure that everyone understands that our myself and the Pig executive team, which primarily consists of our board, we vet out a lot of companies. I would say in 2025, I've probably vetted 50. I've brought to the board 25, which means 25 weren't even worth going to the board. And then the board and us have had conversations, and we've gotten fairly far with about 12. And of those 12 this year, two of them we accepted, which was a 5 office real estate deal. We're at office number one. We'll soon open that up to other investors. That was a private one just to get in the door, and also a private hydrogen deal. That was a private small cap deal as well. But this is a no cap, meaning there is no limit to how much we can raise. Well, sort of. I mean, I think it's 3 or 4 mil, but that's a great problem to have. But I think what I want to share is we really spend a lot of time finding out who these leaders are, what their company's about, having a board that's in all different sectors from real estate, finance, medical, legal, military. We have all our friends that as we're hearing pitches, we get to behind the scenes do a bunch of research and come to the conclusion that we've now come up with, that we think this for a variety of reasons. We think this is a great fit for the Pig portfolio, which, as you know, is in restaurants, in liquor, spirits, in liver care, coffee, now real estate, hydrogen, solar. And we have now, as of I believe this morning, have finalized the LLC. This is going to be called Pig Pharma. We're in now the pharma business. This came to us through James Bartlett, who is one of our board members. Also brought us Strong Coffee and also brought us the hydrogen company as well. So James has a knack for knowing a lot of people who are doing some great things with great companies like this. And after I'd say close to a dozen conversations with Dr. Sue and with Andy, and with behind the scenes conversations with some of our board members who are have a lot of experience and knowledge in this medical field, we thought it was a no-brainer for a couple of reasons. One, it's a great company. It really is changing lives and saving lives, which we have that already with our liver company. But also this is one that we were able to get in with a great evaluation, if I'm correct, and then I'll open the floor to you guys, Dr. Sue and Andy. But it's a company that already has 120 investors in it for over $20 million. So this is not a ground floor. This is more, I would say, rounding third, heading home, which is kind of what's exciting to us, right? We're not really at the beginning of this. This is the tail end of this. And the company, which is valued at, or had an original value of 60 mil, we are for a short amount of time getting in at half that at about 30 mil. So financially, to me, this makes sense for Pig. The exit strategy and the quickness of what could be makes this exciting for me and for Pig. And then having Dr. Sue and Andy, working on stuff that is a worldwide help, it actually makes me feel good. And it goes in line with kind of what I want for Pig's portfolio of companies. So that is kind of, I just wanted to share a brief intro on the vetting process. It isn't easy to get through Pig. We have a lot of investors, as I mentioned earlier, pre-call, that are very good friends and family, and I've become friends with those friends and their families. And so far, I believe we're all happy with where we're at with a lot of these companies that we've invested in. So we take it very seriously if we bring companies to the table. So with that, I love Virion. I think you guys are great. I love the referral source, which came from James, who's been an investor before Pig even started. And I'll open it up. Why don't I start here? Well, actually, you guys tell me where to start. I'll be quiet. But why don't you tell us a little bit about, and let's go backwards, because I know sometimes we want to know about you and your background, but we're really not Shark Tank, so we're not going to go that route. Although it's kind of like Shark Tank, it's Pigpen. But why don't we start with first, just tell us about the company, then I'll break and we'll talk about the finances, And then it is important to know who you are. And we'll end with, why don't you guys tell us about yourselves? So we're going to go a little backwards this time, but let's just get right to it. Virion, who are you? What are you? And what are we doing?
Great. So, Sue, feel free to jump in at any time. But Dan, first off, congratulations to you and this group. We're pleased to be part of the Pig family, and really, you've done an amazing job. It's been great working with you. So, thank you for all your hard work. Um, Nice to meet everyone. I'm Andy Luber. I'm the CEO and president, one of the founders of Virion. We started Virion in 2018 with the goal of developing potentially life-changing and curative treatments for cancer and chronic infections. If you have a chronic infection or a cancer that you can't clear, your immune system over years and possibly decades just can't clear it any longer. It gets burned out. It's no longer able to restore that response needed to get rid of it. Our technology is unique in that we're able to stimulate an immune response in the patient, their own immune responses, to help clear out those infections and those tumors by broadening out the immune response. So instead of simply trying to target the same response that's failed over and over again, we get a completely new response to those targets. And this is really creative in a different way that people have tried to approach this problem. And as Dan mentioned, we're not a science experiment. We've raised a good chunk of money. We are just done our first clinical trial, and we've got the first results in that trial, and they are exceptional. We've taken patients who are chronically infected with hepatitis B virus. These patients have been infected since birth, 40 or 50 years of infection. They've never been able to mount an immune response. They've never been able to get in and they help clear out the virus on their own. A single shot of our O200 program, we've been able to get their immune responses going. And what's most exciting is when we combine it with other agents, we actually see rapid and profound responses within 7 days that in all patients that rival what's seen with 48 weeks of combination therapy that's very toxic, cumbersome, and it doesn't respond in everybody. We're seeing, at least in this small first trial, responses in everyone within 7 days. And it has everyone excited. We're excited. Our advisors, our experts, we believe this has a chance to change the paradigm of how this disease is treated. It's early, but as Dan mentioned, we're not, heading to the stadium, getting our bag ready to get to the ballpark. We're probably already on base. We're in discussions with several pharma partners and collaborators, and we can help advance this program very quickly. And this now applies to other indications because we've shown it works in a human, not just in mice. It works actually in humans. And we can open that up to other diseases like cancer and other sorts of indications. So we're really excited about the possibility. We're getting real close, and it's early in our development, but we are seeing things that we have not seen before and others have not seen before. Sue, you want to add stuff?
I was just going to add, because of course you guys also support or invest in a vodka company. So when we talk about shot, we're talking about one that how it's administered, the drug is administered is one shot in the arm. So just like when you're getting your annual flu shot, if you do get that, that's how it's administered. So again, if you think about a lot of chronic diseases, and again, another place that we're going to go into that's part of our portfolio is cancer. So think of that an additional treatment for cancer that has that administrative ease, no safety or minimal safety and tolerability issues. So again, this is the first game in the World Series. So I'm going to go with the ball analogy and keep going with that. And there's other things to follow as investors that you'll be a participant in. So again, thanks for that.
Talk about the news that you sent me a couple weeks ago that that was a pretty worldwide press release that came out regarding your company.
Yep. So this was from our trial. So we presented first data in Beijing in March, and that was showing that we could take people who were infected from birth with chronic hepatitis B virus, again, unable to mount immune responses. We show before we give an injection, their immune system cannot respond to the virus. And a single shot, these people were able to get immune control that they've never had before, despite 40 or 50 years of infection. So that in itself was exciting and got a lot of people interested. Then in May 7th, we presented additional data in where the hell were we? So I'm blanking already.
Amsterdam. Amsterdam.
In Amsterdam, that when we combined it with other agents, that we were able to see those really profound drops in the virus that people have not seen before. And it takes 48 weeks of other treatments to get what we see in 7 days. And we saw it in every patient we gave it to, whereas those 48-week treatments, only a handful of people get those responses. So that's the thing that's really got people excited because it has potential to literally change the way we treat this disease. And that's what our experts and our advisors are saying. Can it?
It's really, yeah, and it's really cool because now it's the field and the experts in the field are thinking of our drug and our company differently, that this is actually the backbone for functional cure for a disease, and you alluded to it, Dan, but this disease, chronic hepatitis B, is in 257 million and growing, as we know every day, persons across the world. So this just isn't and rare diseases are horrible and awful, but this is a huge disease area that we are being told by experts that this is again a paradigm shift and a real shot on goal for functional cure for this group.
Does
So
this
we're
work
very
on other
excited about it.
chronic diseases like HIV or any autoimmune conditions like arthritis?
Well, it wouldn't be so. This is basically an immune response that's you want to stimulate to clear an infection or a tumor. So lots of cancers. So, for example, our lead cancer program would be for melanoma, but it could also go for bladder. It could go for kidney. It could go for multiple different. The only thing that's unique about our thing is it's a platform. You can literally just change what you want to go after by putting it into the platform. So we know now it's working in chronic Hep B. Will it be a cure? We'll find out. But right now we know we're seeing things people have not seen before. Now, with that being said, could you do the same thing, and we can, into cancer? And it's a different disease state, but we've crossed a major threshold by showing that this new class of agents works in humans. It worked beautifully in animals, and now it works nicely in one disease indication. You have to study the next indication, but we've crossed a major bar by showing it works at least in one disease population.
So walk a lot of us, and maybe a few are like me who don't understand this world. It's above my brain grade, but walk us through the processes of where you started this company and all this testing that you've gone through, and like where are you right now? Because the end goal is, I'm assuming, a cure, and then for us as investors, the end goal is a buyout. So kind of walk us through that process in layman's terms, if you will.
So let's just say this. We started the company in 2018. This was an idea in our head, right? Here we are in 2025, and it's in humans working. We have gone through all the work to get here. You had to show it works in animals. You had to be able to make it. You've got to be able to manufacture it. You have to get it into patients. You have to give it into patients safely. And that kills a lot of programs. If you invested in biotech companies and they're like what we were in 2018, the risk you have is it doesn't work and it's not safe. So think about where you're coming in. We've already shown it works. We already showed, at least early, it's safe. And for now, it's been incredibly safe. So major thresholds are crossed for you guys coming in now, where our original investors have taken all that risk to get here. Now, our goal as a company is not to commercialize these things, because there's a whole bunch of other studies that have to happen beyond this. Our goal is to take each program to a key inflection point and then partner, license, or sell that asset to a pharma partner that's bigger than us. We are there right now. We've hit a major inflection point. We're in discussions with those companies now about exactly that. Can it happen? We think there's a good chance of that. I can't promise. We're in those discussions right now with an investment bank. We may have to do the next study, but we'll do it in combination with a partner. We've crossed a very big threshold for you guys as investors. Think about if you came in 2018, how much risk you had, and right now the investment is a great opportunity given the price we're given, because we're here. We're a step away from getting that inflection point.
So that was my next question. I guess we just get right into the investment and the dollars, but I am getting questions from investors. How many, you mentioned humans that have been tested. What's your sample of how many humans you guys have tested?
Yeah, I can answer that. We have 34 patients in our phase 1b study. Those are not healthy volunteers, which typically you have to start with healthy volunteers before you go into the patient population. We actually, because of our safety and our mechanism of action of the drug that we just talked about, we were able to go right into patients with chronic hepatitis B. So that's a phase 1b. And again, that's a robust phase 1b. In fact, people joke that, hey, you should call it a phase 2. So where do you go from there? Again, the phase 2 expands that population. We also think, and again, no promises on this, but with a partnership, because of our safety, because of our clinical activity, and because there's some precedents set in this field, we also think that from a regulatory pathway and a commercial pathway, we'll get what's called fast track or breakthrough designation. And it's because there's a high unmet medical need. Again, it's safe and and also again, we're showing clinical activity already. So that compresses that time to the end game.
Yeah, and Dan, that's an important point that Sue's bringing up, and that from an investor standpoint, oftentimes where we are now, we've skipped probably 2 years of 2 to 3 years of trials that would have been funded and paid for. And because of the data we have, we're probably going to be able to skip another 2 years on going forward. But I strongly believe, and I think Sue does too, we're at a point where in our discussions with our banks, talking with pharma partners, we have a very good shot. I can't promise, but we think where we are and how large the indication is and how different we are, we have a good shot of having collaborations and partnerships going on. That's, again, we think we're at that key inflection point right now.
And that's something that hasn't just started overnight. It started, there was again, our first one of our meetings in Q4 of last year really was opened the gate of some people, expressing interest, both pharma and other VCs and other companies. That's part of our initial exit strategy. And then, like what Andy had spoken about, there was a large meeting that we went to in Q1 of this year in Asia. And that also then people were like, wow. And that really put us on the map. And then again, most recently at EASL. So it's been this buildup where, again, our data have just come out. People think we were very clever. It wasn't. It was just it was almost through necessity, not necessarily by design, but having really promising and really good safety profile. That's the first gate. Then we showed that there's some immunogenicity, so clinical activity, which again, that was what we would hope for. And then when we saw actual clinical activity that was meaningful with what's called S antigen declines, that really changed the discussions and the level of discussions and the interactions we're having literally daily now, which is great.
So before we get to, I appreciate that. Before we get to the numbers, for all to understand is why we selected to want to be partners with you guys. Obviously, this is a company that's doing great things for humanity, and that's got a soft spot in my heart, and I would speak for the board when we say the same thing. The power of the board, we're so connected with so many different fields, as Sue and Andy, but Nick Wagon is one of our board members. And without getting into details, Nick happens to know someone who's extremely close with, who's literally in this field. And we had him, independent of us, have conversations with you and talk to you about the science, as that has been the basis of his studies for years. And he came back with not only glowing remarks as to like how earth-shattering and life-changing this is, but specifically you, Dr. Sue, you were very well known and well respected in the community. And that, of course, made us that was like check number 2. Like, okay, are they doing the right thing, saving the world? Cool. Are they for real? Because we don't know. And we have expertise that says you are for real. So that's 2. And then 3, is this going to be a moneymaker for us? And I actually like, when we talk about risk, I love our investors because some of our companies, we're risky, right? Investing in a restaurant in California, during the pandemic is risky. And, the thing opens here, I think, in the next 45, 60 days. Investing in a vodka company, was risky when they hadn't sold many. And, here we are, we're going national. And so a lot of them have been risky. But what I liked about your company is you guys already have 120 investors, which is literally 3 more than we do. And you've raised $20 million. So there's a lot of money that's backing you. And that made me feel good that, it wasn't just our money, we're not first money. In many cases, we might be last money, right? And I like the fact that, your initial group came in, and this is where I'm going to ask a question, and you guys can hopefully finish my sentence here, but you guys came in and all your investors, their value went up to 60 mil, and now you're bringing, essentially, I'm assuming they're devaluing themselves to be able to afford our money to come in so we can get access to your company, right? So it went from 60 mil to 30 mil. I'm assuming they're doing that because they know this is the last stage of funding you need to then hopefully take this to the next level. What is that next level? I know you're talking to banks and you're talking to pharma, and I know there's things that could be right around the corner. What does this exit look like in terms of timing potentially, and in terms of dollars potentially? And am I right, my numbers? All these guys got in at 60 mil, and here we are late to the party which in many cases I understand because all our seed investors in vodka were doing this for a year and a half when we were selling these out of a trunk of a car, and then all these investors came in at the exact same seed round a month ago. So I understand that, but am I right? They got in at 60, or at least it's worth 60. Now it's worth 30, and where we go from there.
Yeah, it's a little different than that, but you're in the ballpark. So we've sequentially raised our valuation since inception. So we've been told by Jefferies, J.P. Morgan, Cantor, Brookline, you know,
Wainwright.
list. Our valuation right now, before we actually presented those data a couple weeks ago, it was roughly 75 to $100 million. Okay, that's what they believe the valuation was, and it was consistent with what people told us. It's probably post money. If we raise $40 million, the low, 125, 140 is probably the range if we did another round of where the post money would be. Now, our investors had authorized $60 million valuation for the last round we had. We had shares that are sitting on the side that are common shares, which we have already allocated. And because we want to fill this chunk of money right now, we've been able to sell them without sort of devaluing the asset. We're just taking the value of shares that we've already authorized, that were authorized at 60 million. We're just selling them at 30 million because we had them sitting in a pool.
Essentially at a discount.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
50, exactly.
it's not devaluing their investments. Their investments are valued at that. It's just we had the units allocated and they just weren't sold yet. Or, we put them parked them on the side. So
Yeah, they
that's
were on
why
reserve.
Yep. So that's why you're
look,
getting.
that's a great answer. And how you get there, we don't care. We're just excited that a $60 million value company, we're getting in at 30, but you're saying it's really even worth 75 to 100 right now. So I mean that's good.
You know how it is, Dan. It's what people are willing to invest in, right? I mean, we can set the valuation, people can tell you the valuation is that when you're raising money in this environment, maybe, who knows what it's going to be. We actually believe that the path forward is going to probably be a license or a partnering event or an outright acquisition. We think that could potentially happen between now and the end of the year, possibly even earlier than that. And that's just from the level of discussions we're having now. Listen, we've been doing this a long time, Sue and I. We've seen things get to term sheet stage. They're about to sign the papers and they get pulled out from underneath you. We don't control what other people do. We just know the interest is there. We've been doing this a long time. We know this is very different. This is in a large space. We are the first new mu modulator in 40 years to actually show activity. And we are one of one. And there's a large bunch of pharma partners in here with lots of deep pockets. So, we believe that the most likely path, and again, we can't promise, it will probably be some sort of partnering, licensing, or acquisition event.
At what price?
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
What price? That's going to be tough to say. There's actually no comps for this sort of indication because there's no comps for an immune modulator that's actually worked. So we can say that a bunch of years ago for things that were active at our stage, the upfront monies were $175 to $200 million upfront. Those were the first payments, and then they were back-ended into the billions. So, we don't know. That's the only sort of comp that I have from like 2018, 2019. So I don't know, Sue, what do you think the numbers?
Yeah, so pharma and BD asset acquisitions in an asset like this, again, there aren't comps, but that's exactly right, that there'd be that first tranche, and then it might be milestone based on, once they took it to a phase 3 or once it was commercialized, like a whole bunch of other tranches of money for us and you as the investors as well. So it is usually in that range. Again, it varies on who the company is, and again, whether there's co-development, etc. But we do believe that that's a very real possibility with the discussions we're having right now.
So
Very
fairly
high
simple
level.
math. Pig,
Yeah.
as an entity, invest $1 million. You guys end up selling for a couple $100 million. Obviously, that's a pretty big increase from a $30 million valuation. But then you're saying, so we would get that kind of payout. But then you're saying there's the milestone one that could be worth billions. So you're saying that's a now secondary payout that could come.
Yeah. So let's think about. So there's two scenarios, actually probably three. But let's just take the
3. Yeah, let's do 3 though.
The simplest pathway is company comes in, they want to buy O200 outright, right? So they're going to pay, let's just for the sake of argument, the valuation with all shares in is, there's 50 million shares outstanding, right? And it goes out we're selling the company or the asset for 300 million. That means it's basically $6 a share, right? 50 million is 50 million shares. You're buying what you're buying it at, $6 a share. So if you're buying $1 million worth of Virion stock, that's giving you 2 million shares. You're buying at 50 cents right now, right? So you can do the math that way if you want to look at it, if it's a flat out acquisition. If it's a licensing event with an upfront, right? And then there's pieces beyond that. You get payments at each different payment. So if we're going to give a dividend out, licensing is not getting rid of the whole thing. We still have to develop it. So we have costs we have to take care of. But we could provide a dividend back to the investors at the discretion of the board, which is part of our operating agreement. So as long as we have our runway and we pay down what we have to pay down, we can dividend back to the investors at a percent. And our first thing would be to give back return of capital because there's no tax hit on that. Right. And then the third case would be that basically you're partnering where you're still building value with the company, but there's no payments going on other than cost sharing, studies costs. That increases your value exponentially. So I think there's several different ways on the pharma BD side that you can get returns, but we're kind of right there now. What that will be and how much it'll be and when it'll be is still up for determination. But Sue and I work with plenty of companies. Oftentimes they come much later if they come at all than where we are right now. And again, we can't promise, but we know where the discussions we're having, we think there's an opportunity here that we could try to capitalize on right now.
Andy, do you want to share the other exit strategies? So that's one is the pharma and BD partnering. Do you want to share that? Because I think Dan alluded to that as well.
Yeah. So we have listen, many of us have been in this investment. I started this company in 2018. I actually was working on it in 2017. Our lead investors, James, actually Larry was the first investor in June of 2018. We are looking for liquidity. We would like to get our investors' returns. Many people have been tied up in this for a while now. So we have the BD side, which we're talking about, and depending upon which path that goes, there could be a payout initially. It could be a dividend. It could be multiple payouts depending upon the structure of the deal. We also are actively looking at reverse mergers and public listing opportunities. Now that we had something going in the early part of the year, but now the economics and the economy are not very good for public listings for biotechs. Biotech markets are kind of closed. But we are looking at the next 12 to 18 months to do a public listing or reverse merger and get into public markets. That would obviously give you liquidity as well. Okay. And then the third piece is, and this is also a possibility, the data right now in our lead program are really good. It may lead to someone, if it's a bigger company, just coming in and taking the company out completely. And if the company gets taken out completely, then it's that scenario data, what's the number divided by number of shares, and that gives you exponentially increasing your value and your return. So we think, but we are not looking to be, you're not coming into Virion where our lead investors came in 2018, waiting 6 to 7 years to get your return. You're coming in where we see the window being, we need liquidity. We want liquidity for our investors, and that's what we're aiming to do right now. That answered that for you?
Absolutely. Yep. Makes sense. That's as we're coming here just past the half-hour mark.
Oh.
If anyone has any questions they want to ask themselves, or you want to text me, let's get that out of the way right now. I think we understand the company, what the company's doing, the investment. We'll probably spend more time on the investment part, which is great because that's kind of what this is about. Why don't you briefly tell us about yourselves, Dr. Sue? Tell us who you are outside of being a lifesaver.
So I'm a Canadian, so you probably gathered that from my voice, but Canadian, and I've been working in clinical and academic research forever. Started in HIV back in, and was recruited by UCSF, University of California, San Francisco. Believe it or not, they sent me directly to jail. So I was working in correctional facilities with folks with infectious disease there. So I always joke that I've been in jail 2 years less a day. Truly, in the state correctional facilities. But I also then, in addition to academic and clinical research, so I worked at Genentech Roche, and that's, I think, where some of your colleagues knew me a bit from my work on checkpoint inhibitors and some of for oncology indications as well. And Andy and I was 3. I can't say how old he was, but we actually connected when I was in Canada in 1996 at a global HIV conference. So from my perspective, it has been a funny road, clinical and academic, work with veterans with public health issues, and then within industry at Genentech Roche, at Nectar, and some other pharma. And again, I left that specifically because I was driven by the science, by the opportunity, the unmet medical need, and the true opportunity to be kind of once of a lifetime shot with this company. So a little bit about me.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Andy?
Hey, thanks. I am a Philadelphian, so go Eagles. Sorry, Dan, if I know you guys in Texas, you know how we feel about the Cowboys.
I'm neither. I'm a Raider fan, so it's worse.
Yay,
Yeah.
good man. That's my Vegas boy.
You grow up in Philadelphia, it's kind of like you're born into the bleeding green. So that's we a big football fan. It's a good year for the Eagles. I am one of those idiots who's on a bike. I'll be out bike riding, whether as long as there's not snow on the ground, I'll be out in January and February riding a bicycle. So it's the way I prevent killing myself in this company and getting stressed out. And I'm already getting gray from this place. But so I'm a big bike rider. Like Sue, we were both involved in the very early days of HIV. I mean, I was running clinical trial units when we were seeing everybody die. And when the first regimens came out, we were investigators in all those trials, and it was magical to watch people's lives change overnight. And so doing that led me back to the East Coast. I went out to California, did my work out there, ran large clinical trial units in Los Angeles, and then moved back to the East Coast and back to Philadelphia and worked with lots of small companies and found this asset. And we both, Sue and I, have seen blockbusters this, very early in development. And this sort of behaved like that very early. And both Sue and I and our advisors, what we're seeing in patients right now is very reminiscent of the first days of the first regimens in HIV that worked. When they work, they just work. It's small, it's early. We're not promising the world, but we think it feels different. It looks different. It looks like some of the other ones we've seen. We're super excited, and we're just so pleased that you guys are a part of this and bring us into your family. So we appreciate you guys immensely.
Well, this is our first all pig release and partnership since the Liver Care Company, which I believe was in June of 2024. We've done some private ones with real estate and with hydrogen, but this is the first one in over a year that we're releasing to everyone. So I'm excited about it, and I know the board was thrilled as well to bring this. And I mean, we did a lot of research on this too, because most of us don't know what the heck you're even talking about now, other than saving lives and making money. And if we can do both those things, then we can go to bed at night really happy. And that's kind of my thing, with, of course, some Golden Eagle behind us. So it helps us go to bed a little easier. But I'm excited to have you guys on board. I'm looking forward. And I know we've kind of done this pretty quickly because, Memorial last week, and then I was out of the country and all this other stuff. The vetting process was long, but us finalizing something was fairly quickly. I believe the LLC is officially in, which is Pig Pharma LLC, which provides Jessica on my team the time to start working with you guys on getting some contracts out, which are going to look very similar to all the other contracts, except they're going to be specific to your company. We're going to put you on our website fairly soon. I was talking to our marketing guy, and I know I've mentioned it briefly, but I would love, since we have over 116 people. It sounds like the entire investment group, but people are bringing spouses, some of them. But we have 116 people who are going to be at our Dallas event on August 16th and 17th. So we'll talk more about that offline, but I would love for you guys to have some time to talk about what we're doing. But this is an official launch now. And again, as most people know, we can utilize our IRA. Stocks are back to normal pre whatever that was called, Liberation Tariff Day, whatever that was happening for the past 45 days. As of today, we're back to where we started. So our IRA money is all back to where it was. So let's spend it if we believe in this company. If you have cash, they'll take it. But we're excited to have you on board. We really are. We hope we can give you as much as we're capable of. Just like you can't promise us when you can sell this company, which I hope it is the end of the year, like you said. I can't promise how much money we're going to make, but again, we've our last two raises have done pretty well, right? 3.4 mil for vodka and 1.3 mil for liver, all in less than a year and a half span. So hopefully we can do something too.
So Dan, your investors that want to talk, just reach out. We're happy to have. We have tons of calls. We're one-on-ones. We're happy to have any conversation with anyone.
Appreciate it. Perfect. I'm sure I'll get a lot of questions after the call, and of course, there's going to be 100+ people who are going to see this video tomorrow. So I'll as always, I'll stay in touch with all our CEOs and I'll share any updates as you guys get any studies and trials and press releases on your company. Please continue to send to me, and then I would expect here sooner than later to have you guys officially on our website as one of our pig portfolio companies. So I don't remember if it was company number 9 or company number 10, but you're one of those. So we're happy to have you. Thanks everyone for spending some time here on a Friday. For those who are listening tomorrow and over the weekend, I appreciate your guys' time. And Dr. Sue and Andy and to the rest of the pig family, thank you very much.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.